Tessa Jowell and Alex Salmon are still here. We're joined by Mark Hoban. He's a shadow Treasury Minister. 2 shadow Treasury Ministers in 1 week. Doesn't get better than that.
We're blessed. That's what we are.
We're blessed. Tessa Jowell, the Governor of the Bank of England says, quote, if a bank is too big to fail, it is too big. If that's true, and we've not allowed these banks to fail, so I guess the government thinks it is, why don't you break them up?
Well, I think we'll obviously hear more about this when the paper is published.
The paper's not going to break them up.
No, that's absolutely right, because I think that the argument, as Robert made clear there, the argument that Alistair will set out is that the aim of changes to the regime must be to address risk, and risk doesn't necessarily just arise from size.
But if a bank is too big to fail, it is too big, and we've not allowed these banks to fail, why would a Labour government not break them up?
Well, because you have to make some very careful judgments about the grounds for intervention. I mean, for government to move in and break up a bank is, a pretty major market intervention.
We own them.
Well,
We've
exactly.
Saved them. They're our banks.
Exactly, and
so we will
not. Well, we will not withdraw from ownership until we're satisfied that that the banks are, most particularly the savings and the deposits of the customers of the banks are safe. And the paper today will look at not just the size of banks and reducing risk and improved regulation, but also improved consumer protection.
Why should anybody care about this or take it seriously when a bank that we own 70% of, the Royal Bank of Scotland, has agreed to a pay package of 9.6 million for its new boss? 9.6 million.
I know, and it's
why, if you want to regulate the banks, why don't you start there?
But the Banking Act gave the FSA powers through its remuneration committee, where the FSA deem that a level of remuneration is unreasonable, to intervene.
So why haven't they?
Well, that's a matter for the FSA.
No, you set up the SFA.
No.
There is also a body, never mind the FSA, there is a body into which all our ownership has been put in, the UK Financial...
I
forget what it's called, but it exists. If we own it, why don't we just say... By the way, if I look around British industry, and we have some wonderful world-beating companies, huge ones, BP, Shell, Glaxo, Wellcome, all the rest of it... no one in these companies, which are global giants, gets paid anything like 9.6 million. So why should the boss of state-owned RBS?
Look, it is a lot of money. And the principles, which as a statement,
really?
The blinding obvious. No, but the point is that the reward should be for success. There are mechanisms, if this is an unreasonable level of remuneration, for intervention to reduce it. But it's not, it is not for ministers cruising past television studios to come and say, right, we're going to have half your remuneration off you. There's got to be a proper and rational system.
TV studios, but never mind. Mark Hoban. Would you break up the banks?
Well, what we want to make sure is that if a bank is in trouble, that the taxpayer is protected from the fallout of that collapse. And we've seen over the course of the last 2 years the way in which the taxpayers have to step in to nationalise Northern Rock, to bail out Lloyds, bail out RBS.
Well, we know all that. Would you break up the banks?
That's why we need to make sure that what we have in place is protection to ensure that if a bank does collapse, it doesn't impact the public purse.